Hey friends. So I been working with a lesson, and it's one that I've spoken about in the last couple of weeks, a handful of times, and it's kind of just turning over a new leaf of the same old lesson in some ways. I One of our very first somebody who worked with Annalise, I think I'm trying to remember what she even did. It wasn't our midwife. It was somebody who came over and might have been like a lactation consultant or someone like that. Someone who came in early and just gave Katie some advice, and but had a lot more to offer than just nursing advice. It actually had a whole kind of whole bringing a baby into the world uh, perspective, and a lot of just beautiful and amazing information. And at some point, this woman said that the approach to nursing was play your way to success. In other words, make it a game with the baby. And and then, very quickly, that was a lesson that all of us were like, oh, and that's also the rest of her life. Play your way to success. And we it truly became like a mantra early on, that anytime we wanted Annalise to learn something, wanted to take a step, wanted to help her take a step. Walking was part, it came around again for walking. Play your way to success was this perfect way to encapsulate, don't make it work, make it play. And when I look at how I have approached music with Annalise, music, I mean, we literally call it playing music, and yet it can so quickly become work. And as I said, I spoke over the last couple of weeks. I've spoken a couple of different times about this experience and what I'm learning from her, what I'm learning by through my own experience, and sort of seeing what's really I feel like I'm being offered lessons about my own approach to music, not as a father or a music teacher, but as a musician. But I'm learning those lessons now through the process that I'm in with Annalise, and it feels very much like I am the student, even though ostensibly in the room I'm the parent and the teacher. But today, I woke up in the morning, and for some reason I was thinking about, there was something in The Gift. This is I'm talking about a book. The Gift is a book by Lewis Hyde, where he talks about gift giving, gift economies versus commodity economies, and how that all relates to the creative process and artists and artistic commerce, etc. And at some point in that book, he talks about the distinction between the distinction in two different approaches to spiritual practice or spiritual realization, one of which is very rational and grounded in the mind, and one of which is essentially experiential. And he quotes Whitman at length, and Whitman talks about his body and clearly had these very corporeal, very physical, visceral experiences, and then recounts these in his poems. And so Lewis Hyde is talking about the distinction between people who kind of go to church to hear a sermon and people who go to church to sway and speak in tongues and become completely out of their minds with the Holy Spirit. And then he kind of crystallizes that into an analysis of creativity and how creative inspiration works, and where creative inspiration comes from, and how creative inspiration comes about, and how we have, what it takes to make ourselves available to receive it. And at some point he talks about how the excessive rational mind engagement can wound this, in some ways, more innocent and certainly more spontaneous and Dionysian eruption of inspiration that comes through us. And I thought about Annalise's first experience when she brought her violin home, where she just played for, 30 minutes straight without looking up. She just played her violin. She didn't know how to hold the bow, really. She didn't really know how to hold the violin. She kind of did. I think she'd had like one lesson on here's how you hold this, here's how you hold this. And she just played that thing, all 4 strings, just no fingering, just played the 4 strings of the violin for a good long time. And she was, not yet 3. So it was like watching, is that right? No, she was not yet 4. She was 3 3/4, 3 2/3, something like that. And so it was just like watching something pour through her. And then I thought about, the way I've approached the things with her, and looking at both the successes of that approach and the deficits of that approach, the liabilities. And I observed that she's really, really happy playing the violin for other people. She's really happy when she gets to perform. And something I've noticed about her from the very beginning is that she doesn't really care how well she plays. If she learns a new song, she wants to play that new song, even if it's kind of not quite fully learned. She wants to play that new song for people when she sees them. Like when somebody comes to the house and they're like, "Oh, you play violin, you want to play something?" And she'll play a song for them, but she'll always play the newest thing she's working on. Not something that's really solid and really performance ready, because she doesn't care. She's not even thinking like that. She just wants to play the newest, coolest thing that's fascinating her. And I recognized that in some ways my approach doesn't make enough space for that. And there's some level on which, practice, it's hard for me to say I can make every single aspect of this fun and always only joyous. That would be the ideal. if all of it could be play, and maybe there's some ways that I can, now my mind wants to go to work in innovative ways of making everything a game. Everything from technique to listening exercises to learning new pieces to review songs. Make it all somehow a game. But today my insight was, let's just make a game out of back and forth melodies. And we just decided to play some, so we started out with triads and then we moved on to like actual melodies, just improv melodies. And I swear, there was one melody in particular which she played that was so beautiful. It sounded like a little piece of a minuet. I was like, what just came out of you? There was lots of other ones that were just kind of meandering and a little chaotic, and clearly she was just kind of like moving from one thing to the next. But then there was several that had some sense of like, okay, this is a melody, there's an intention here. And there was one that was like, it could have been like 2 or 3 bars from a minuet. And we did this for almost an hour maybe. And we had so much, she had fun the whole time. Afterwards, she said, Papa, you really did make it fun today. I'd been promising her that I was going to make it fun. She didn't believe me. She said, Papa, you really did make it fun today. And I was like, right. Play your way to success. So, I'm taking that in. Because the thing is, when you're playing like that, it relaxes everything else. Then we went away and played, and she learned an entire piece of a new song, or an entire page. And there was still a little bit of like, a little bit of resistance, not so sure she wanted to do it, but there was just way more space around it. And I think that's, if there's a way that I can learn, if there's a sensibility, a sensitivity that I'm learning, it's what parts of this practice are creating more space, and what parts of this practice are contracting the space. And I've said this to my, adult and just older piano students for years. I've said we got to find ways of letting our focus expand, and then letting our focus really contract again, and then letting our focus expand. Our focus has to breathe just like every other aspect of our being. And but I think with Annalise, I have not done enough expansive stuff. I haven't done enough expansive stuff. And so that's what I'm feeling. And because play creates space. Play creates the opening into which you can then, because, then you might come back and do an exercise or do something that's micro-focused or not. But, if mastery is what we're after, there's going to be a balance of like expansion and contraction. So, but I perceived that in a new way today, and I was able to actually successfully do something that changed the nature of what we are doing. So that felt really good. And there's no way that it won't inform my own musical practice as well. It has to. Coming into play is the only way to practice. That's where I am, folks. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you. Have a great day. I'll see you soon.